I'm Constable Kira Brooks. I'm our Community Safety and Wellbeing Officer with the Barrie Police Service. I am super excited to have a special guest with us today. I reached out to a number of schools to see if there was a willing and able student that wanted to speak with me about the issues surrounding bullying. As you know, today is Pink Shirt Day, and back in 2007, this came to light in Nova Scotia when a young person was bullied, and they all came to school wearing pink shirts to start the conversation. So today I'm with Alicia, and we're going to start the conversation, and hopefully we're going to have an open, candid conversation around bullying. And I first want to commend Alicia for being here. It's not easy. It's tough to be put in the hot seat, but I think it's really important, and the issue surrounding bullying needs to be discussed. It doesn't need to be hidden. And we're gonna get into a couple things, and we've just met. This is the first time we met.
Yeah.
Are you nervous?
Just a bit.
Yeah, me too a bit. I have notes just in case, because I get off track, and if any of you have watched my videos, I get off track. Alicia and I had a conversation about a week ago, I guess. Just to see if you were interested in this. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Alicia. I'm a 17-year-old grade 12 student in Barrie. I was bullied in the past, mainly through elementary school, and when I got the message from my VP,
Yeah.
I was really excited that I was kind of chosen to be the representative from my school in this, because it's not really talked about as much as it should be. We have Pink Shirt Day, but it shouldn't just be one day a month. It should be more people need to know.
Yeah, more people need to have these conversations,
Yeah.
right? They'll open it up and talk about feelings, right? Just what is it? Let's Talk, Bella, Let's Talk Day.
Yeah.
It's not just one day, is it?
No.
So bullying goes back to that, right? Mental health, well-being, personal satisfaction. So I'm grateful that your vice principal chose you and that you said yes and you chose to have this conversation with me. I do want to say and acknowledge that Tammy, Alicia's mom, is in the background. She's camera shy. But she's here and has been a great supporter of her daughter along with her father, and they've watched her go through this in elementary school. When did it start?
I think around grade 4-ish.
So how old would you have been?
I know.
Grade 4, so you would have been about 10,
Yeah, around
right?
10.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So how did it start?
So first there was no issues. I was the new kid to the school and late in SK. There's only a couple months left before grade 1, and I came in late, and I didn't really have any issues with anyone for the first few years. And then grade 4, as we got older and people got more opinionated, I started getting picked on for small things, like what I would bring to school and what I would wear and how I would dress and stuff. And then as we got older, in grade 6 to grade 8, it got more aggressive. There was more name calling, more vulgar words, and it was more on appearance than anything.
That's sad. That breaks my heart. In grade 4, you would have been 10, and you remember that right now, and you're 17 years old. So 7 years ago, you felt this, I don't know, a heaviness in your chest maybe, or?
Okay, so it was, I went from being friends with everyone in my grade, year younger, year older, to having maybe one friend, and then having no one, because then that friend left.
Left the school, or just left you?
Just left me.
So, what did you do? So you're in grade 4, you're getting picked on, and you don't have coping skills in grade 4?
No.
Yeah, so what did you do?
In the younger grades, 4 and 5, I mainly just tried to ignore it, or I would snap back at them and just kind of not treat them the same way, but just be like, well, you're not any better better because you look this way and just stuff like that. But then as I got older, I got angry with myself that like, why was I the person when there was 20 something other kids in our class? Why was it me, you know? Like, I wasn't any different. I wasn't raised differently. I didn't come from a different home. I didn't look that much different. So like, why was it me that was picked on out of everyone?
Did you have, so you said your friends left you, so you didn't have a friend to confide in?
I had one friend, but she went to a different school. But it was different with her because we've been friends since we were 3 months. So we always had each other to turn to, but back then we didn't see each other as much because it was different schools.
Right, and did you have social media then? Because I sure didn't. I'm old, so I didn't have social media back then.
I did.
Okay, so you were able to electronically keep in touch with her?
Yeah.
Was she a good support?
She was, yeah, because she was going through a very similar thing at her school.
Okay. One thing that kind of triggers me to ask you about is you said you got angry. So you almost kind of isolated, it sounds like, and then you got angry. Did you talk to your parents or did they notice anything?
No, not at all. I kept it all to myself. I thought that was easier than going to an adult about it because I thought that it was just, you know, we were always told kids will be kids and like boys will be boys and that type of stuff. So it was set in my mind that like, this isn't a big deal. It will stop eventually.
Okay, now looking back, what do you think about that?
It didn't stop, and you know, kids won't be kids and boys won't be boys. They learn from parents and siblings and other kids in the school, like really impact how they react towards other people. So maybe if I did talk to my parents earlier, that there could have been an issue resolved, but also I was almost embarrassed to bring my parents into this because I was like, I can handle this myself.
I was going to ask you that too, because I was going to say, why is bullying so underreported? Why do you feel it is?
Mainly the person that is being bullied feels so ashamed of being bullied and so alone that they feel like if they talk to an adult or bring light to it, that they're just going to be bullied more for having to bring a parent into the situation. And you know, they might get called things like baby or stuff, or like taking it to heart, or like not being able to get through it. But we were kids, like,
you don't have coping skills.
Yeah, what are you supposed to do?
So this might be tough for you to answer, and you don't have to answer any of the questions that we talk about. We can just skip to the next thing because I can talk all day long. What ended up happening? So you were getting angry. You said you got angry, so that can manifest.
Yeah.
What else happened?
So when it started getting worse, which was from grade 6 to grade 8, I started taking it out on myself and blaming myself. So I thought that if I changed or if I did something different, it would stop. So I was, you know, like blaming myself, and I would try to change how I looked by like not eating or like self-harm and stuff like that, and it got really, really bad.
Were you able to hide that self-harm?
Yeah, I was.
What about eating disorders? Over the COVID, the last 2 years, eating disorders have significantly been on the rise.
Yeah.
And you're beautiful the way you are. And you know what, as a woman, we body shame ourselves on a regular basis. We don't need the community, we don't need other friends or anybody else. We can beat ourselves up all on our own.
Yeah.
So you start doing these self-harm, and did you notice, like, at any point, I gotta talk to someone about this?
Not really. I thought it was normal. Because when they would show us like anti-bullying videos, it would always be people doing what I was doing to get over it. So I thought it was normal because that's all we talked about, was what the person who's being bullied did. We never talked about what the bully did and what you should do.
So let's talk about that. That's interesting. So as a community officer, I would be in your VIP class. You probably had VIP class in your school. We're not doing that anymore. We have an incredibly amazing program that we're starting to offer. It's being kicked off to get more conversations like this rather than me teaching you. It's more us teaching each other. So in the sense of a bully, what do we need to teach in school right now to be effective? Because it obviously wasn't effective then.
Well, I think that we should talk more about like the bully stance and like why they're doing it, because it's always blamed on like, oh, if someone's bullying you, then they have a hard life at home and like be nice to them. But that's not the case, because the kids who bullied me, they had an amazing life at home. They had like a great family and like they had no issues. They just were that way.
Mean.
Yeah.
Mean. Yeah. And it's true, sometimes people don't have to come from bad, they can just be mean, right? Okay, so you had difficulty from grade 4, I'm assuming, all the way to grade 8?
Into grade 9.
Into grade 9 too?
Yeah.
So you didn't really seek help. You continued on a self-destructive path, by the sounds of it. You get into grade 9. Did you go to the same high school as the bullies? Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Interesting. So a little tidbit of Constable Brooks. And I'm not afraid to admit it because I am who I am today. I was very bullied because we came from a very poor family. We didn't have the clothes, and I used to steal kids' lunches. And we just didn't have food at home. So of course I got bullied because, oh, Kira's eating, Kira's stealing lunches. But really there was an underlining factor. We didn't have the money. So of course I couldn't go on the field trips. I couldn't do all of these things. And that was devastating, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to. So I dealt with it all by myself. Now fast forward to grade 9, I went to a different school. Now you went to the same school.
Yeah.
But now look at you, you're strong. So tell me, what did you do to get to this point?
Well, in grade 9, I kind of decided that I had enough and that I wasn't gonna blame myself and be the victim, and I was gonna just not care anymore, but in a healthy way.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you. Keep your thing. So because I want our audience to know that when you're a victim of bullying, that it's not necessarily your fault, so don't blame yourself. And it hurts my heart to hear you talk about blaming yourself, and that you say in grade 9 you thought, I'm not gonna blame myself anymore. But really, I think you dug deeper by the sounds of it in our conversation, that you actually started to develop some coping mechanisms. So let's go there, keep on going.
So I found some new friends, and my best friend, who went to a different school, went to the same high school. So that
The one
helped
from
a lot.
grade 3?
The one that I do when I
Oh,
was
great,
younger.
okay.
Yeah, so that really helped having her there, because we did have some classes together and our lockers were next to each other, so it was great to have her there so she could see it happen too and like say stuff. But then anytime they said something to me, I would either ignore it or say something back to them.
Okay, so that's a key. I was gonna say, like, how do you address a bully?
So, they always say treat others the way you want to be treated. So I took that and I thought, if they're treating me this way, how would they feel if I treated them that way? I didn't bully them and I didn't like point out their flaws, but I wouldn't take it anymore.
Like, give back.
Yeah, when they would say something, I'd say that's great, but then this. And that kind of shocked them, because I would never say anything back. So eventually,
Standing up for yourself.
yeah. So over time, it went from bullying to just like joking.
And joking and sarcasm can be pretty hurtful sometimes too.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry.
It's okay. But no, so when it got to that joking point, it wasn't like you're bullying me. It was more, we're just messing around with each other. Like, I understand now. I get where you came from, and it doesn't really matter. Like, you were lashing out on me for whatever was going on. But now we're mature, we're older. We're not that different. And I think that not only I realized that, but they realized that, a few of them, not all of them. so we didn't become friends, but we were more of acquaintances after.
A mutual respect for each other,
Yeah.
almost. Okay, so that brings me to a couple things I want to ask you. So you went through all of this heartache, and then you got to the point where you were mature enough. But a lot of people don't get there. You have a good support system at home. You have a good support system, I'm assuming, at school right now. Some people don't.
Yeah.
So what would you suggest to those people who are still in grade 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that can't get to that point where they're ignoring it or self-harming to the point of devastation almost? What can you say to those kids?
It's a lot harder when you're younger because you're more vulnerable and impressionable. So what people say will affect you way more than when you're older. And you can't really say to yourself that it's your fault or when I'm older, it won't matter, because it does. Like, there's still days where I'll see the person or hear their name and like remember everything. It never goes away. So the earlier you talk to someone, it can literally be anyone. It could be a stranger, it could be your best friend, it could be your parents. You could go to therapy, just as long as you talk about it and make it real.
What about journaling? What are some other coping skills?
Everyone's different. Personally, I use music.
Okay.
So when I would like get upset, I just put my headphones in and listen to like really loud music. I tried journaling, but I wasn't getting it out. I was just talking to myself about my issues.
Okay, so that didn't work for you.
No.
Okay.
But it can work. You could use anything. You could use sports if you really like sports, as long as you don't overdo it and like burn yourself out. Like have multiple things to turn to. Don't just have one thing to cope with.
Right. And before we got on camera, just before we got on camera, I asked you about your school system and if you're getting supports there. You told me earlier that you didn't have supports at your other school and you stopped looking, really. What do you say to that? Like, what advice would you give when you can't get an answer from someone?
Look for a different path. If your school isn't doing anything, if your teachers aren't doing anything, look for another way. Like always try to tell your story, like I said, whether it's to a stranger or not, just talk to someone. And if your school isn't doing anything, then you should tell your parents about that, because then your parents can talk to the school about issues.
So I'm going to bring you back to the student 13 days ago, Drake. So we talked about that before camera, who unfortunately he took his own life. This is a little boy in Ohio, 12 years old, who took his own life because he was bullied. How do you feel we can have better conversations so those kinds of things don't happen at 12 years old? He would have been in grade 6.
Just don't make it a day. Don't have anti-bullying a day. Don't have, Pink Shirt Day is great, and the Bell Let's Talk is great, because it does get it out there, and more people actually care about sharing it when it's a day. But it's not just a day, because bullying doesn't just happen on one day. We need to talk about it like often.
I love it. We need to have more positive.
Yeah.
We need to have those conversations that open it up, like, how are you feeling today? I know at home for me, I always said to my kids when they're growing up, I have adult children now, but I'm like, what was your high of the day? And what was your low of the day? And you can see it in the expression. Do you ever feel that if mom or dad ever asked you that maybe they felt that you, or were you good at hiding it?
When I was younger, I wasn't good at hiding it because I didn't have control over my emotions, and the second someone asked me if I was okay or if anything was wrong, I would just start crying. But I would never fully say what was wrong. I would only give parts of it and be like, well, this happened at my day, which upset me. But in reality, it was this constant thing every day.
So we need to continue, like you said, to continue to talk.
Yeah.
Now, in grade 4 to 8, did you have the opportunity to call the kids' helpline? Was that available?
It was available, but I never called because I was actually scared of calling.
How come?
Well, first I'm anxious with talking over the phone if I like don't see the person and like see their expressions or their movements. That makes me really nervous. And also, we were always told that Kids Helpline is for if you're thinking about suicide, which it isn't. It's for other things. It can also be for bullying. It could be if you need someone to talk to, but you don't want them to know who you are. But we were always told, and like the ads I would see on TV was always about suicide. So I was like, well, I don't want to do this, so I'm not gonna call because.
Really good point.
Yeah.
So, have you been on the Kids Help phone website?
No.
So I encourage you, just as an advocate, to go and have a peek. So before we came on here today, I have been on it because I truly believe in supporting victims of bullying, and it's tough. It's been going on for decades and decades. Mom, like I'm sure you and I went through it, and our parents went through it. Like it's been going on, and yes, it needs to stop. We're getting more resources, but the Kids Helpline website is absolutely phenomenal. It is filled with different resources and different topics. So it's all about eating disorders, bullying, suicide, coping. And you made a really good comment about not wanting to talk over the phone because you need to see someone. How's COVID been for you right now?
It was pretty bad at the start when like school and everything was online, and I couldn't see my friends. That really took a toll on my mental health because I couldn't leave the house. And there was a point when my whole house had COVID, so I couldn't even leave my room.
Oh.
So I was at such a good point mentally, and then COVID hit, and it just went downhill.
So, you don't have to answer me this, but you said that you were just at a bad point mentally, and then you've gone through all of these horrible things, and we didn't get into everything because we could talk for hours, but you were bullied. But if you went and you broke your arm, you would have gone to the doctor and you would have had a cast, right? What have you done for yourself to help with your mental health?
So I started going to therapy, I think a year ago-ish.
Good for you.
And that really helped, and the person that I'm seeing is really, really nice. And I was always scared of therapy because I thought it was like an interview, but the person that I see, we just have a conversation.
Perfect.
We just like I'll tell them like what happened in my past, and then they'll either tell a story that relates to it, or they'll tell me something that happened to themselves, which is similar, which I really like.
I love storytelling. I think life is about stories, and
Yeah.
I think we share moments in life that are valuable through storytelling, and that's how we can get through to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel that. And I think it's brave of you to tell us and share that you have gone to therapy, because there are a lot of people that are afraid to go to therapy because they're afraid to be stigmatized
Yeah.
or judged, but it's not that. It's looking out for you because you're in this body for hopefully 80 to 100 years, right? So you got to take care of it, not only on the outside physically, but your mental. You've got to take care of it. So I think it's super important to be reaching out. I did pull some stats, and I want to ask you what you feel about these. So I looked at some Canadian stats on bullying, and I found that over 1 in 5 Ontario students, so 23% of students report being bullied at school. That's a pretty high number if you think about it. And that was according to a 2019 study from a Center of Addiction for Mental Health. And when I was looking it up, I looked at it on the Ontario.ca website. amazing website. If you're watching and you're a parent or you're a youth or even an adult experiencing bullying, amazing website. How do you feel about that 1 in 5?
Part of me feels that it's more than that, because there always will be people who will never talk about it, but that is like a decently high number, especially with how much people are told like bullying is wrong. Like, we grow up being told from teachers and parents that like bullying is wrong and you should never bully, but then you look at that and that was so recent. It's like just saying bullying is bad doesn't stop.
It doesn't. So we need to do better, don't we? Just another stat was almost on the Cool 107.5 website. I looked at it because they were doing an interview of an Innisdale student who actually, it was awesome. He was watching some bullying and he stepped in and he was like, enough is enough. Do you suggest that if you feel safe enough to do that, to step in?
Definitely. People always see others getting bullied and like pushed around, and they just stand there and watch, or they'll just walk by and think it's not my issue. But it is your issue, because what if you saw that kid being bullied and then you're like, it's not my problem, and then the next day it's like that kid transfers schools or that kid does something worse to themselves. Then you put the blame on yourself, like, what if I helped? So just help. Don't think what if I help. Just do it.
So are there, which is alarming, because 50% on the website that I saw, 50% of Canadian parents have at least one child that has been a victim of bullying. So nearly 1/3 of teenagers have been bullied recently, and nearly half of Canadians are bullied in the workplace alone. So that's even like my job. Of course there's bullying. I'm sure there's bullying in your job, Mom. What can we do? I know we've got this Pink Shirt Day, but do you see anything going on in your school that is affecting some sort of change right now?
Not really, to be honest. They always say like you can talk to your teachers or you can go to guidance with it, but no one ever does, because they feel embarrassed and stuff like that. So just telling people that you can talk about it doesn't make it known. Like, you have to talk about it. Like, a principal could have something where they talk about their experience, and just like you said, storytelling.
Yeah.
Just have a conversation. Don't point them in the other direction and be like, take your problem here, because that's not what it is.
Do you have a student newsletter or anything that's given out to the students on a regular basis? So I know at your school you have student announcements in the morning.
Yes.
So, which I love, and one of your VPs has a very loud voice.
Yes.
So what do you think of like having like morning podcasts or something to touch on different topics?
We do have podcasts at our school. I think they just started it this year. They talk about a bunch of things. They'll talk about sports and stuff like that, but I don't really pay that much attention to it, so I don't know if they've talked about bullying. I'm going to assume that they have, or
Right.
that they're going to. But I notice, especially with me, is that students won't watch those types of things because they go to school and they just want to go home. Then they get home and they don't want anything to do with school.
Right.
So social media, that's a huge thing in a lot of our lives. So I think that posting on social media about it would be not better, but a way to get it around quicker.
Right. Interesting. So if the schools had their Instagram accounts or their Twitter accounts, or if they had, I guess you guys use more often Snapchat and TikTok, right? So what if the principals and teachers got involved in TikTok and had the students do that kind of stuff? Would that kind of prompt some fun?
Probably, because my school also recently made a TikTok account, and more kids at my school are like reposting them and like sending them to other people, so it is getting out more, whether it's to laugh at like some dance they do, or if it's actually something serious. At least
it's a message.
Yeah, at least they're sharing it, they're not just ignoring it.
Right. You touched on something that kids are not really reporting things because they're embarrassed. Do you think that there's any other reason? I thought I made maybe a couple notes. Another couple reasons why kids wouldn't report being bullied.
One of the major reasons why I didn't is because I was also being bullied by my teacher.
Okay.
So the person who we're told to talk to first is our teacher. But when your teacher is treating you almost the exact same way the students are, you don't want to turn to them, because are they going to believe you if they're treating you that way too? Or are they just going to ignore it?
So that's a really good point that we kind of touched on before camera came on too. So let's say you don't want to go to that teacher and have that conversation with that teacher. Do you give up, or what would you recommend to our audience to do?
Well, personally at that point, when I started getting it from adults too, I turned to my parents.
Good, okay.
Because like, you don't want to keep going to the teachers and have the same results. Just go straight to your parents.
But now that you're in high school, do you feel that there are different personalities and you're a little bit more mature that you might be able to go to him or to her and get different opinions?
Definitely.
So, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe never give up. Maybe if I go to your mom, for example, because I'm struggling with something and she's just really not vibing with me, I think I'm going to go to someone else. Or like, I'm never going to give up. I should just keep on talking, because once you give up, I think that's where you will sink lower, and it's hard to get out of that hole, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to keep you for too much longer. I know I have had you for a long time, and I really appreciate it. And if you're still with us, I really appreciate it. But Alicia, is there anything else that we can talk about that you want to tell our viewers today about anything regarding our Pink Shirt Day today, or bullying?
I do want to say that I agree with you, like, don't give up who you talk to, but also watch who you talk to, because you can either get bullied for what you tell them, or you can hurt them. Because if they're going through the same thing and you go up to them and you're like, I'm having these thoughts about hurting myself, and they're also having these thoughts, you're just gonna hurt them more.
Right.
So
interesting. I can't thank you enough for being here. I know this was really putting you out of our comfort zone, but you were highly recommended by one of your teachers who I consider to be a really good friend. I'm thankful she chose you. I believe you've got some good supports at your school, just knowing who they are. I'm just super grateful that we were here today. And just to our viewers, I do want you to know that there are a couple different websites that you can go to. You can go to the Kids Helpline. It's really important that you know that number. Google it, research that page, really get onto Google and look at some different stats, some different coping skills, some different information. Their phone number is 1-800-668-6868. Or you can text. If you don't like talking to someone, you can also text Connect. And if you're really feeling like you're struggling, call us. We are here to support you too. We have an anti-bullying button on our website at barriepolice.ca. We will monitor those reports. If you're too afraid to talk to someone but you want it reported, but you don't necessarily want to go with charges, bullying can result in charges. You can be charged for various different crimes. So just know that there are people out there that are willing to listen and to support you. And it just goes to show you that you're not alone and you can really overcome a lot of things. Thank you, Alicia.
Of course.
Okay, I just want to go back for a minute and address maybe something that we might have forgotten or we might not have talked about.
Yeah, so when we were discussing like the self-harm and like there's many forms of it, but one thing that like you should do and like I really encourage is tracking how long you're clean for or sober from it.
Okay, so explain that to me.
So there's an app called I Am Sober, which is what I got on my phone. And when I wanted to stop, I would put in the date that I decided I was going to stop. And it tracks days, minutes, seconds, hours, years, months, how long you've been clean for. And that really helped me because I've hit a year and 2 months clean, and I never thought that I would pass 3 months ever. That was such like it's like setting goals for yourself.
Self-rewarding.
Yeah, it's really good. And you know, obviously when you first start, you're gonna falter. It's like trying to get sober from anything. It's like when you're trying to stop smoking. You're gonna have those times where you're gonna go back to it. But just knowing that the less you do it is more important, then that really helps.
So what was it called again?
I Am Sober.
Okay, so just for the audience, so we don't get mixed up, we're talking about anything. We're probably talking about, and I just don't want to get into your mechanisms of coping, but that could be from eating disorders, from cutting, punching yourself, over-exercising. Am I missing anything really?
There was also different types of drugs.
Drugs, yep. So we were talking about drugs and alcohol, which is obvious, one of the points of the sober. But I wanted to also talk about, and we got cut off a minute ago, just about when you are in therapy and not giving up if you have a therapist that you just didn't jive with.
Yeah.
Because there's a ton to go out and look for. Now there is something called EAP. Are you aware of that, or was that mom and dad who helped you with securing the therapist?
That was mom and dad.
Okay, so EAP is a free service, and that's part of mental health services where you can get 6 sessions for free, and sometimes it's just not enough. So you got to keep opening the lines of communication, definitely, but don't give up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.